Hey Rocky fans, Leandra here. Kelly and I wanted to put a content warning on this episode because this minute of the film depicts scenes that, to a modern eye, contain sexual assault. While these scenes were originally not written with that intent, we are aware that for some listeners, this discussion may need to be skipped. If you would like to pick up the conversation after we're done with these minutes, check back in at minute 56. Rocky Horror Minute is rated R. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is also rated R. We're going to spend this time discussing the movie in gory detail, and along the road we will talk about some adult content and use some of our favorite swear words.
Breaking news! Batchild found in cave!
Consider yourselves warned.
Welcome to Rocky Horror Minute, the podcast where we discuss the Rocky Horror Picture Show in excruciating detail 1 minute at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Kelly.
And I'm your other host, Leandra.
And today we're discussing minute 51 of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Leandra, I didn't watch it. What happens in minute 51?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Janet is still in bed. Frank is still in bed on top of Janet. Frank is wearing Brad's glasses and is still just having a chat with her about how to proceed. Janet continues her question from before, and Frank answers. Frank says this. Oh, well, nothing. Why? Do you think I should? And then Janet says, you tricked me. I wouldn't have. I've never, ever. And then she cries. And Frank says, yes, I know. But it isn't all bad, is it? I think you'll really find it quite pleasurable. So soft. And then Janet says, oh, stop. I mean, help. Oh, Brad. Oh, Brad. And then Frank responds to that with, shh. Brad's probably asleep by now. Do you want him to see you like this? And he grabs Janet kind of by the hips and brings her kind of up so that her legs go up into the air. And she says, like this? Oh, like how? It's your fault. You're to blame. Which is, I guess the way that I would categorize that humph is kind of like an odd drat sort of noise. And then she laments, I was saving myself. And Frank counters with, well, I'm sure you're not spent yet. And a surprising turn of events, Janet says, promise you won't tell Brad? Frank says, cross my heart and hope to die. And then Janet giggles. We then go to the lab again. Don't worry, we're not going to stay there. Magenta is mopping in a very bored, kind of meh way in the lab using only her right hand. Then she kind of half-assedly switches to two hands. There are some bluish-black curtains framing the scene with a white satin curtain further away from the camera and to the left. It is the last location that we saw Rocky.
Yeah.
Riff pushes the sonic oscillator switch up. There are two of them. He only pushes one of them up like he is done watching on the monitor. And he approaches Magenta with his yellowed rag out, and Magenta stops her mopping to look at her brother. And that's where the minute ends. So, what do you think about this minute?
I think it is honestly a very fun minute. I think the sex scenes are always crowd pleasers. There's a lot of really funny dialogue on it. I think that the line, which, spoiler alert, is going to get repeated, what have you done with Brad? Why, nothing. Why, do you think I should? I think that's one of the clearest and funniest jokes in the movie. Like, everybody finds that funny. It's a very clever, fun line.
Now, you said that audiences love the sex scenes. Why do you think they love the sex scenes? What happens at a live shadowcast?
Now, I wasn't even necessarily referring to live audiences. It's just like, in my experience, everyone who has seen the movie thinks that these are very funny scenes because of the different entendres and stuff. However, at a live shadowcast, it's especially funny because typically there will be a sheet held up in front of Frank and Janet and a light behind them, red or blue, depending on what scene it is, and Frank and Janet will be in perfect silhouette, usually, and then something happens. Sometimes you can act out the scene exactly as it happens, but it's a lot more fun, and most people do some kind of silly gag, whether they get really, really raunchy with it and act out various sex acts, or are pulling things out of people or shoving things into people. There are so many different ways to do it. I honestly think we should go over some of our favorite sex scene gags that we've seen.
I think that's fair. And for those of you who are having trouble visualizing this, if you wanted to reference a film or a series of films, I'd go with the Austin Powers films, because they almost always have this like shadow puppets scene where they're doing something innocuous, but the shadow that other people see makes it look like they're doing something incredibly raunchy, because it we are all playing make believe behind that sheet. Well, I am. My favorite thing to do is pull amusingly shaped things out of people. I really enjoy the concept of like taking dinosaurs or giant fish or teddy bears, just things that have fun silhouettes, and going, how did that get in there?
Yes, and that is a crowd pleaser. People love that. On a similar vein, I have shoved things into people once for a Christmas show. I, as Frank, shoved a giant candy cane into Janet, like pushing and hammering it in, and then when it was Brad's turn, I pulled it out of Brad. That was very funny to me. Leandra and I were recently at a show. We were at TNP, Transylvanian Nipple Productions in Philadelphia. Absolutely fabulous show. And their Frank was one of the funniest Franks I've ever seen for this. He was so enthusiastic, and he was doing all kinds of things that are simply not possible for me. So, most notably, he got up and started like squatting on a dildo to make it look like he was just like, like, up and down on that thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, there are so many fun things that you can do. I find that if I also add some vocalizations into it and kind of talk over the dialogue in the bedroom scenes, I can tell a different story, and sometimes a better story. I'm not going to get back into everything that we discussed last minute, but the statements still apply. There's still the awkwardness around this being a bed trick, for lack of a better phrase.
Something that I don't even think is all that funny, but that the audience always seems to love, is puppets. So we've got some like dinosaur hand puppets that I use quite a lot when I'm Frank, because I mean, you aren't even really doing anything special with them. They just crack up at the sight of that dinosaur head. So
I also like getting sucked into Janet's vagina through the gravitational pull. That can be fun. And then like essentially struggling to get back out. That can be a really fun sort of puppet show gag, or shadow puppets gag.
absolutely. So yeah, really, this is a great opportunity to be creative, I think. Lots of different fun ways that you could do something interesting. I think this is a great time to diverge from what's happening on the screen.
But a little bit back to what is happening on the screen. I like that Janet turns the script and gets really into it, but I do not like that she's wearing pantyhose. She's clearly in her stocking feet when she kicks her feet up into the air. I hate that so much.
Yeah, those things are going to be ripe.
Oh, God. So, on to kind of the next half of this minute, everything in the lab scene. You see Magenta and Riff Raff really, really well, and they're not moving, which means you get a good opportunity to see costume pieces in this. And one of the costume pieces that you see really, really well are the magenta boots. And honestly, Riff's boots and spats and pants as well. I also like that if you look at this, it looks like Magenta has a huge run in her in the stocking that she wears on her right leg. So this is a really fun bit for revisiting what people are wearing. You also get to see really some of the best detail shots of the lab. You see the writing on the wall, the tank, things like that, things that the camera's moving around too much at previous minutes to have really seen those. So, Kelly, with that, is there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Two things. First of all, I really want to shout out the way that Magenta is mopping. It is exactly how I did chores as a child and pissed my mom off greatly. Like, if we didn't ever actually, or it wasn't the responsibility of the children in my house to mop anything, but that is definitely how I would have held the mop with one hand, just kind of like lazily shoving it. I do know that I got in trouble constantly because we lived on a horse farm and I would try to shovel horse stalls with just one hand, which really pissed my mom off for some reason. It was easier for me. She seemed to think it was less efficient. I don't think it was, but anyway. Magenta, I really saw myself in Magenta with that.
Yeah, it's extremely relatable to go, I don't actually want to be doing this right now.
I really ham that up when I play Magenta too, like just shoving it around with no particular goal of cleaning anything.
With no gusto.
Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up was what Richard O'Brien and Patricia Quinn said about the sheet and the sex scene on the commentary, because I thought it was interesting. They both declare that doing the sheet was completely genius. They use the word genius. They mentioned that it came from the stage show, so I guess this is how they were always doing it with the stage, which makes sense. This type of thing you see a lot in stage theater. And basically, Richard O'Brien said, yeah, it was great because, in his words, we didn't need any close-ups of flesh, which I was like, you don't have to say it like that, but that is how he said it. And then he mentioned also that nobody had to take their clothes off for this sex scene, which is great. He attributes all of this to, in his words, Jim Sharman's prudery. So I guess Jim Sharman preferred it this way because it was a little more modest. And Patricia Quinn said, good show, Jim and me, the old prudes. So again...
Honestly, as a never nude, I very much resonate with this. I am very thankful for prudes who go, you know what, this is a sexy movie, but we don't have to show skin. That's not necessary.
I'm torn. I want everybody to be comfortable. However, if Susan Sarandon had wanted to show a little titty, I wouldn't have been mad about seeing it.
Well, thank you for speaking your truth.
And same with Tim Curry and Barry Bostwick, to be clear. If either of those men wants to send me whole pics, please feel free to do so at rockyhorrorminute@gmail.com.
So I was just about to say that I felt like I needed to issue an apology to Uncle Barry because last minute I feel like I really objectified him, and that's not cool. Uncle Barry, I'm sorry. You're more than just a big cock to me. You are also a fantastic actor.
Yes.
And probably a fantastic person at so many other things.
He sings like an angel.
He does sing like an angel.
He can actually dance.
He can actually dance.
In heels better than I do, so there you go.
In heels at all, period.
Yeah. However, I thought it was really funny. Like, I'm learning more and more through this commentary that Patricia Quinn is kind of like modest in a way.
I love that. It's also so strange to think that because I think that people who have followed Patricia Quinn's career would also have noticed that she was in that Monty Python movie as a naked woman that was having sex.
Yeah, I definitely am aware of that. I mean, I don't know if she necessarily is against nudity. I mean, I guess she just seems to like be a little bit like demure and shy about this kind of thing, which I think is really interesting.
Do you think that she's shy like you're shy and that you're not, but sometimes you like to pretend you are?
Uh, yeah, I'm not actually sure anybody's ever called me shy, except myself when I was a kid. For some reason, I went through this phase of saying I was shy a lot, which pissed my mom off because she's like, "You are the least shy child I've ever met. Why do you keep saying that?" And I recently found she gave me some of my old school things from Hawaii when I was like 7, 8 years old. And I had to write a poem about myself, and in this poem I kept repeating, like, I guess I'm assuming the assignment involved like repeating a line and then writing about ourselves, but the line I kept repeating was, "I am pretty and shy." Like,
Kelly is pretty and shy. You heard it here first,
that's
folks.
me. I mean, pretty, shy, beautiful, but she doesn't know it. Modest, etc.
It's a Halloween tradition for you to say beautiful but doesn't know it.
It's something I say often because I just think it perfectly describes me. I'm not aware of the arresting effect I have on people.
That is true.
Yeah.
You'll never know how beautiful you are in my eyes,
Aw.
which is to say, you've got big tits.
I do have big tits. I do. But that's all I had.
Well,
I got big tits and nothing else to say.
oh, that's going to be a coda. So I feel like we're at a point where we can just go right over to callbacks. Do you want to start?
I would love to. So the first one chronologically, when Janet says, "I've never, ever," people will say something like, my favorite variation of this is, "But what about the football team? They never found the goalpost." Which is pretty funny on its own. It's funnier because it sets up a really good one for Brad later. But so that's a good one for that I always try and do. When he says, "It isn't all bad, is it?" Say, "It's not all Brad either." Very funny. Again, sets up a matching one for Brad's scene. When Tim Curry is clearly munching carpet and she sits up and yells, "Oh, Brad!" Brad's never down there. Very common. Again, repeated for Brad when we get to his scene. We do get, "It's your fault, you're to blame." Always in response to that, you should be saying,
Sue's to blame.
so true. Often people, when Janet comes around and goes, "Promise you won't tell Brad," often people take that opportunity to call her a slut, which in this case, very fair. That's pretty slutty of her, which I say with great affection. And then finally, past the sex scene, when we're seeing Magenta mopping, you can sing "It's a Hard Knock Life" from Annie, because, yeah.
Because she's mopping.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that deep. But that's all I got.
I I really like the callback of "kick your legs for Jesus." And you see Janet kind of kick her legs up into the air right after she starts going like full throttle at having sex with Frankenfurter. That one's good. I like "It's a Hard Knock Life" for us as the thing that Magenta might be internally singing. It will always remind me that my very first drama play theatrical experience was in the seventh grade. I was in Little Orphan Annie Jr., and I was an orphan and I had no lines, and I got to sing that song, and I was really cute. I was adorable.
As a musical loving little queer kid, I wore out our VHS of Annie. So
Such a good movie for Tim Curry, too.
I don't remember him being in it. I haven't seen it
He
since
was
I was
Rooster.
oh my god, I need to rewatch. I haven't seen it since I was a kid.
The name is Rooster, right?
I don't remember.
But you know who I'm talking about.
I remember nothing. Well, that's not true.
Oh.
What I really remember, and this is again probably gay of me, is I loved the orphanage lady, whatever her name is.
Oh, Miss Hannigan?
Miss Hannigan. Loved her. Love her song, the little girls song. I just love her.
Little girls, little girls.
I mean, so good.
Yeah, just a lot of really good comedic timing in that. And then you get, I believe it's supposed to be her brother, Rooster, is Tim Curry. And he is just chewing the scenery. This is, I think,
Annie's brother?
no.
Oh, okay. I was like, what
Miss Hannigan's brother.
that makes more sense.
And if I'm conflating things, I'm going to be real embarrassed. So let me just do a quick Google search.
There was also a dog in this movie, as I've discussed many
Sandy.
times.
The dog's name is Sandy.
Oh, yes. Yes. Sandy, as I've discussed many times, any movie with a dog in it was an instant fave for me.
So yeah, Tim Curry did play Rooster Hannigan in the film adaptation of Annie, right alongside, it looks like Bernadette Peters.
Of course it was Bernadette Peters. See, I don't remember any of this, so... But, like, as an
iconic.
adult, obsessed with Bernadette Peters. You know what she's really good in, listeners? If you have not seen... well, she's really good in everything, first of all, just to make that clear. But if you have not seen Paper Moon, one of my all-time favorite movies, it is so fun.
Which I haven't seen.
Well, that's weird, because I thought we were friends. But... it is such a great movie in so many ways. I believe at the time Tatum O'Neal, who was like 9, was the youngest Best Actress winner for a long time. She and her father play she and her real actual father play father and daughter in it. But also Bernadette Peters plays a classic Bernadette Peters skank, and she is like a highlight of the movie. She's so great. So watch Paper Moon and anything else with Bernadette Peters in it.
Apropos of honestly very little, do you remember when I messaged you with, I want to do a shot-by-shot remake of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane with us playing the two main roles? And you were like, I thought we were friends.
I don't remember that, but that is a good response because it's true. I assumed you would be Joan Crawford.
I would assume so, yeah.
Yeah, you're a cunt. But...
I'm a cunt?
Yes. But I'm still down to do that.
Yeah. Listeners, if there are any other films that you think that Kelly and I should do a shot-by-shot remake of, just the two of us.
You're gonna get porn.
Waiting for Godot. No. Not a Fistmas Carol. Not again.
I should write a Fistmas Carol. That sounds funny.
I don't think you should.
I think I shall.
Okay, so back to callbacks.
Right.
So, yes, I like Hard Knock Life. I also, after this, I really like the I'm gonna fuck with the monster, I'm gonna fuck with the monster, and when I'm done fucking with the monster, I'm gonna fuck you in the ass with that mop handle, and when I'm done fucking you in the ass with that mop handle, you're gonna need this a lot more than I am. And on this is kind of at the very beginning of the next minute, so mild spoiler, is when when Riff Raff flips his hand up and actually passes the rag over to Magenta.
Yes.
So that one's fun. Otherwise, that's it.
Yeah. Not much really.
Yeah. this is a nice minute.
Yeah. Nice, we got that done relatively quickly because, to be honest, we'd already discussed a lot of the things that there were to discuss.
Now, I will say we haven't really discussed the background music going on at this point. I feel like it's very dynamic and almost a little goofy at this point during the bedroom scenes and all of the transitional scenes between and around those. I'm not sure if you've ever really listened to them, but it's good stuff. It's very goofy.
Oh yeah, absolutely, I have.
But that was all I wanted to say, and if that's all you wanted to say, I guess we'll wrap up.
Then who's driving the car?
Happy Halloween, everyone. Good
night, everybody. You don't have to go home, but you can stay here. So
no, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, so get the fuck out. No!
To the late night double feature picture show.
I got big tits and nothing else to say.